What if your wife of 10 years was secretly running a business that was destroying your reputation and stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars from your clients? What if every angry phone call, every lost contract, and every damaged relationship was because the person you trusted most was systematically robbing the people who paid your bills? This is my story of how I discovered that my wife Sarah, who I thought was the perfect business partner, had been embezzling over $800,000 through fake invoices and fraudulent charges. My name is Tom. I'm a general contractor from Dallas, and for 3 years I defended my wife to furious clients while she was stealing from them behind my back. By the end of this video, you'll see how one man's investigation into his failing business led to exposing the most calculated theft imaginable. You'll also witness how choosing justice over loyalty can sometimes save everything you've worked to build. This isn't just a story about a cheating wife. This is about a criminal who used marriage as cover for systematic fraud, and how I made sure she paid the price for destroying my reputation and stealing from hardworking families. My wife Sarah and I had what everyone in Dallas considered the perfect business partnership. I was a general contractor specializing in custom home renovations, and Sarah was a certified public accountant who handled all of our financial operations. We had been married for 10 years, and for the last 5 years we had been running Thompson Construction together as a true team. I would meet with clients, design their projects, and manage the actual construction work, while Sarah handled all the paperwork, invoicing, permit applications, and financial management. Our system worked incredibly well, or at least I thought it did. Sarah was meticulous with numbers, always had our books perfectly organized, and clients frequently complimented us on how professional and transparent our billing process was. She would create detailed invoices that broke down every cost, from materials to labor to permit fees, and clients appreciated knowing exactly where their money was going. We had built a reputation as one of the most trustworthy contracting companies in the Dallas area, with over 90% of our business coming from referrals from satisfied customers. I was completely focused on the construction side of our business, which meant I trusted Sarah entirely with all financial decisions. She handled client payments, managed our business accounts, paid our subcontractors, and even filed our taxes. This division of labor made perfect sense because I understood construction but hated paperwork, while Sarah loved organizing numbers but had no interest in swinging hammers or managing work crews. Our clients loved dealing with us because they got a skilled contractor who could build anything they wanted, plus a professional accountant who made sure every financial detail was handled correctly. We lived in a beautiful 4-bedroom house in an upscale suburb of Dallas, drove nice cars, and took annual vacations to places like Hawaii and Europe. I thought our success was the result of hard work, satisfied customers, and Sarah's excellent financial management. Our business was growing every year. We had a waiting list of clients who wanted to work with us, and I was proud of what we had built together as husband and wife. Sarah was always dressed professionally when meeting with clients, spoke confidently about financial matters, and seemed to genuinely care about making sure our customers were happy with both the construction work and the billing process. She would explain charges in detail, answer questions about costs, and even helped some clients understand how to budget for future home improvement projects. I thought I had married not just the perfect wife, but the perfect business partner who shared my commitment to honesty and customer service. Everything about our life seemed ideal, and I felt incredibly fortunate to have found someone who could be both my life partner and my business partner. We worked together every day, traveled together, and had built a company that reflected our shared values of quality work and fair dealing. I had no reason to suspect that the woman I trusted with our finances, our reputation, and our future was systematically destroying everything we had worked to build. The first sign that something was wrong came about 6 months ago when I started receiving angry phone calls from clients about charges they didn't understand. Mrs. Henderson, whose kitchen renovation we had just completed, called me furious about what she called mysterious fees that had appeared on her final invoice. She said there were charges for things like additional permit modifications and material cost adjustments that we had never discussed during the project planning. I was completely confused because I remembered our original estimate very clearly and I had personally overseen every aspect of her kitchen renovation. When I asked Sarah about Mrs. Henderson's concerns, she calmly explained that these were standard industry adjustments that sometimes occurred during large projects. She said that permit requirements had changed mid-project, requiring additional paperwork and fees, and that some materials had increased in price due to supply chain issues that were affecting everyone in construction. Sarah's explanations made sense to me because the construction industry really was dealing with supply chain problems and constantly changing regulations. I trusted her expertise with the financial side of our business, so I called Mrs. Henderson back and repeated Sarah's explanations. Mrs. Henderson wasn't satisfied with my answers, but she paid the invoice and left us a mediocre review instead of the glowing review I had expected after delivering exactly what she had requested. Over the next few months, these complaints became more frequent and more intense. The Johnson family, whose bathroom renovation had gone perfectly from a construction standpoint, called me screaming about charges for emergency permit expediting that they said had never been mentioned. The Martinez family was furious about specialty material surcharges that appeared on their final bill for a bedroom addition that I had completed on time and on budget. Every time a client complained, I would ask Sarah to explain the charges, and she always had reasonable-sounding explanations. She would show me documentation about permit fee increases, supply chain disruptions, or regulatory changes that required additional paperwork and fees. She even started showing me official-looking emails from suppliers and government offices that seemed to support her explanations about unexpected costs and fee increases. But the complaints kept coming and they were getting more aggressive. The Wilson family threatened to report us to the Better Business Bureau over what they called bait and switch billing practices. The Thompson family, no relation to us despite the same last name, actually hired a lawyer to review their invoice because they suspected fraudulent charges. I was starting to lose sleep over these complaints because our reputation was everything in the contracting business. What really worried me was that we were losing potential customers because of our billing reputation. People who had been referred to us by previous clients would call for estimates. But then I would hear through mutual friends that they had decided to hire other contractors because they had heard rumors about unexpected charges and billing problems with Thompson Construction. Our waiting list of eager customers was shrinking, and for the first time in years, I was having trouble booking new projects. Sarah kept reassuring me that these were just growing pains that every successful business experienced and that demanding customers were simply trying to avoid paying legitimate fees that they had agreed to in their contracts. She said we should stand firm on our billing practices and not let unreasonable clients take advantage of us. She even suggested that we should be more selective about which customers we worked with, focusing on higher-end clients who understood that quality work sometimes required unexpected expenses. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was fundamentally wrong with our billing process. I had been in construction for 15 years and I had never experienced this level of customer dissatisfaction with invoicing. Even during economic downturns and supply chain disruptions, I had always been able to maintain positive relationships with clients by being transparent about costs and changes. The fact that multiple unrelated customers were all complaining about the same types of unexpected charges seemed like more than just coincidence or unreasonable client expectations. The discovery that changed everything happened on a Tuesday morning when Sarah left early to meet with what she said was a new client about a major renovation project. She had been taking more and more of these early morning meetings lately, claiming that successful business owners preferred to discuss projects before normal business hours. I was working in my home office, updating project schedules, when I realized I needed to check some old invoices to prepare an estimate for a potential customer. Sarah usually kept all our financial documents on her laptop, but she had taken it with her to the client meeting. I remembered that she had a backup laptop that she sometimes used for overflow work, so I went to her home office to look for the invoice templates and client records I needed. Her backup laptop was sitting on her desk, still logged in and open to what looked like a spreadsheet program. What I saw on that screen made my blood run cold. Sarah had multiple windows open, and one of them was clearly labeled Client Billing Adjustments. The spreadsheet contained a list of all our recent clients with columns for original estimate, actual costs, standard markup, and something called additional revenue enhancement. The numbers in that last column were shocking. For Mrs. Henderson's kitchen project, there was an additional revenue enhancement of $4,000. For the Johnson bathroom renovation, it was $2,500. I scrolled through the entire spreadsheet and realized that Sarah had been systematically adding fake charges to every single project we had completed over the past 3 years. The additional revenue enhancement amounts ranged from $1,500 on smaller projects to over $8,000 on our largest renovations. She had created an entire system for stealing money from our clients while making it look like legitimate business expenses. But that wasn't even the worst part. I found another folder on her laptop labeled Invoice Templates that contained dozens of fake document templates. Sarah had created fake letterhead for supply companies, fake permit fee schedules from the city of Dallas, and even fake email templates that made it look like government offices and suppliers were notifying us about unexpected fee increases and cost adjustments. She had templates for emergency permit expediting fees, material cost adjustment notices, regulatory compliance surcharges, and specialty labor premiums. These weren't real charges that we were passing along to customers. These were completely fabricated fees that Sarah was adding to our invoices to steal money while making it look like legitimate business expenses that were outside of our control. I found email drafts where Sarah was planning to send fake notifications to upcoming clients about industry-wide material cost increases and new city permit requirements that would justify additional charges on their projects. She had even researched actual supply chain problems and regulatory changes so that her fake explanations would sound credible when clients questioned the unexpected fees. The financial records showed that over the past 3 years, Sarah had stolen over $800,000 from our clients through these fake charges. She had been depositing the fraudulent payments into a separate business account that I had never seen, and then transferring the money to personal accounts that she had hidden from me. Our clients weren't just paying for construction work and materials. They were unknowingly funding Sarah's secret lifestyle. I found purchase records showing that Sarah had been using the stolen money to buy luxury items that she had somehow kept hidden from me. Designer clothes, expensive jewelry, spa treatments, and even a leased BMW that she claimed was a business expense. She had been living a double life, presenting herself as a frugal business partner to me while using stolen money to fund extravagant purchases that she enjoyed in secret. The most sickening discovery was a folder labeled Customer Management that contained detailed profiles of our clients, including notes about which ones were most likely to question charges and which ones would pay additional fees without complaining. Sarah had been systematically targeting trusting customers who she knew would assume that unexpected charges were legitimate business expenses. She had written notes like, "Johnson family very trusting, can handle 15 to 20% markup, and Wilson family asks lots of questions. Keep additional fees under 10%. Sarah had turned our client relationships into opportunities for theft, carefully calculating how much she could steal from each family based on their personality and financial situation. I spent the entire day going through Sarah's files and documenting everything I found. I took screenshots of every spreadsheet, every fake template, and every piece of evidence that showed the scope of her fraud. I also found records showing that she had been preparing to expand her theft operation, creating fake vendor relationships and planning to add even more sophisticated fraudulent charges to future projects. By the time Sarah came home that evening, I had uncovered a 3-year criminal enterprise that had been operating under the cover of our marriage and our business partnership. The woman I had trusted with our finances, our reputation, and our future had been systematically robbing our clients while destroying everything we had worked to build together. She had turned me into an unwitting accomplice in her crimes, making me defend her fraud to angry customers who were absolutely right to be suspicious about our billing practices. I knew I couldn't confront Sarah immediately without a plan, because if she realized I had discovered her fraud, she would destroy evidence and potentially disappear with the stolen money. Instead, I spent the next 3 days methodically documenting everything while pretending that nothing had changed. I acted normal around Sarah, discussing upcoming projects and daily business operations while secretly preparing the most comprehensive fraud case possible. The first thing I did was hire a forensic accountant named Patricia Williams who specialized in small business embezzlement cases. I met with Patricia during Sarah's supposed client meetings and showed her all the evidence I had discovered. Patricia was shocked by the sophistication of Sarah's fraud scheme and immediately understood that this wasn't just theft, it was systematic racketeering that had victimized dozens of families. Patricia helped me understand that I needed to move quickly and strategically to protect both myself and our victimized clients. We spent 2 days creating a complete financial analysis of Sarah's theft operation, documenting every fake charge, every fraudulent invoice, and every dollar that had been stolen over the past 3 years. Patricia also helped me understand that as the business owner, I could be held liable for Sarah's crimes if I didn't handle the situation properly. While Patricia worked on the financial analysis, I contacted a criminal defense attorney named Michael Chin who specialized in white-collar crime cases. Michael explained that I was in a dangerous legal position because Sarah's crimes had been committed under our business name, making me potentially liable for her fraud even though I had been unaware of it. He advised me to cooperate fully with law enforcement and to take immediate steps to make restitution to our victimized clients. Michael also helped me understand that Sarah had committed multiple federal crimes, including wire fraud, mail fraud, and racketeering. The fact that she had used email and postal services to send fraudulent invoices to clients made this a federal case, and the organized nature of her theft operation over multiple years qualified as racketeering under federal law. The most important part of our legal strategy was documenting that I had been genuinely unaware of Sarah's crimes and that I was taking immediate action to make things right with our clients. Michael advised me to record any conversations with Sarah where she might admit to or discuss her fraud, because those recordings would be crucial evidence for both criminal prosecution and civil litigation. On Friday evening, I finally confronted Sarah with all the evidence I had gathered. I set up a hidden recording device in our kitchen and waited for her to come home from another supposed client meeting. When she walked through the door, I was sitting at our kitchen table with printed copies of her spreadsheets, fake templates, and financial records spread out in front of me. "Sarah," I said calmly as she put down her purse, "we need to talk about your very creative approach to client billing." The look on her face when she saw the evidence was pure terror. She went completely white and actually dropped her car keys on the floor. For a moment, she couldn't speak at all, just stared at the documentation of her own crimes. "David, I can explain," she finally managed to say, but her voice was shaking and she couldn't make eye contact with me. "This isn't what it looks like." I told her that it looked like she had been systematically stealing money from our clients for 3 years while making me unknowingly defend her crimes to angry customers who had every right to be furious about fraudulent charges. Sarah tried several different excuses in rapid succession. First, she claimed that the additional charges were legitimate fees that she had been authorized to collect by various suppliers and government offices. When I showed her the fake email templates she had created, she said those were just backup documentation for real communications that had been lost. When I showed her the purchase records for luxury items she had bought with stolen money, she said those were business expenses that she had been planning to discuss with me. But I had too much evidence for any of her lies to work. I showed her the detailed client profiles where she had calculated how much she could steal from each family, the spreadsheets tracking her theft operation over 3 years, and the financial records showing exactly where the stolen money had gone. I also played back recordings of some of the angry phone calls we had received from clients, reminding her that she had convinced me to defend her fraud to people who were absolutely right to be suspicious. "You didn't just steal money," I told her, still recording our conversation. "You destroyed our reputation, made me an unwitting accomplice in your crimes, and turned our marriage into a cover story for systematic theft from hardworking families." Sarah started crying and begging me to forgive her, saying she never meant for the theft to go this far and that she had been planning to stop and make things right. But I was done listening to her lies. I told Sarah that I had already contacted law enforcement, hired attorneys to represent both myself and our victimized clients, and begun the process of making full restitution to everyone she had stolen from. I also informed her that our marriage was over and that I would be filing for divorce and pursuing every legal remedy available to distance myself from her crimes. The recording captured Sarah's complete breakdown as she realized that her 3-year fraud had been exposed and that she was facing serious criminal charges. She admitted on tape that she had been creating fake charges and stealing money from clients, that she had been hiding the stolen money from me, and that she had been planning to continue and expand her theft operation. Within 24 hours of our confrontation, I had turned over all of my evidence to the Dallas Police Department's white-collar crime unit, the Texas State Board of Public Accountancy, and the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. I also began the process of contacting every client who had been victimized by Sarah's fraud, providing them with detailed explanations of what had happened and offering full restitution for the money that had been stolen from them. Sarah was arrested at our office the next Monday morning while she was supposedly preparing invoices for new clients. The Dallas Police Department's white-collar crime unit had moved quickly after reviewing my evidence, and they coordinated with federal agents to ensure that Sarah couldn't destroy any remaining evidence or attempt to flee. The local news covered her arrest because the case involved such a large amount of money and such systematic fraud against local families. The headline in the Dallas Morning News read, "Local contractor's wife arrested for embezzling $800,000 through fake invoice scheme." And the story detailed how Sarah had been systematically stealing from clients while her husband unknowingly defended her to angry customers. The story went viral on local social media, with many people expressing sympathy for me and outrage at Sarah's betrayal of community trust. The criminal proceedings moved quickly because the evidence I had gathered was overwhelming and well organized. Sarah's defense attorney tried to negotiate a plea deal, but the district attorney's office was determined to make an example of someone who had committed such elaborate fraud against working families. The prosecutor argued that Sarah's crimes weren't just theft, but a systematic violation of public trust that had damaged the reputation of honest contractors throughout Dallas. During her sentencing hearing, the judge heard victim impact statements from 12 families who had been targeted by Sarah's fraud. Mrs. Henderson testified about how the unexpected charges had forced her family to dip into their children's college savings. The Johnson family explained how they had borrowed money from relatives to pay Sarah's fake fees, creating financial stress that had affected their entire extended family. The most powerful testimony came from the Martinez family, whose elderly parents had been charged over $6,000 in fake fees for a simple bathroom renovation. Mr. Martinez explained that his parents had been saving for years to make their home more accessible for his mother's mobility problems and that Sarah's theft had forced them to delay other necessary medical expenses. Judge Patricia Williams sentenced Sarah to 5 years in state prison and ordered her to pay full restitution to all victims, plus penalties and interest that brought the total to over $1 million. Sarah also lost her CPA license permanently and was ordered to register as someone convicted of financial crimes, which would make it extremely difficult for her to find employment in any position involving trust or money handling. The civil proceedings were equally devastating for Sarah. I filed for divorce immediately and used the evidence of her fraud to ensure that all marital assets would be used first to compensate her victims. The court ruled that Sarah's criminal activity had forfeited any claim to marital property and that I was entitled to rebuild the business reputation that her crimes had damaged. More importantly, I had already begun the process of making things right with every family that Sarah had victimized. Using Patricia Williams' forensic analysis, I calculated exactly how much had been stolen from each client and began making full restitution payments even before the court ordered them. I sold our house, liquidated our savings, and used every available asset to ensure that no family would suffer permanent financial harm from Sarah's crimes. The response from our former clients was overwhelmingly positive once they understood that I had been genuinely unaware of Sarah's fraud and was taking full responsibility for making restitution. Many families actually hired me for additional projects after seeing how I handled the situation, saying they respected my integrity and commitment to making things right even when I could have claimed ignorance and walked away. The business community in Dallas also rallied around me once the full story became public. Other contractors, suppliers, and industry professionals understood that I had been a victim of Sarah's deception just like our clients, and they helped me rebuild Thompson Construction with a focus on transparency and ethical business practices. Within 6 months, I had more work than I could handle and was actually turning down projects because my reputation for honesty had become stronger than ever. I completely restructured my business operations to ensure that nothing like Sarah's fraud could ever happen again. I hired an independent accounting firm to handle all financial operations, implemented a system where clients receive detailed cost breakdowns before any work begins, and created a transparency policy where every charge must be documented with original receipts and approved by both myself and the client. The new Thompson Construction has become a model for ethical contracting practices in the Dallas area, and I frequently speak at industry conferences about the importance of financial transparency and fraud prevention. Many contractors have adopted similar oversight systems after learning about Sarah's case, and the Better Business Bureau now uses our transparency policies as an example of best practices for small business financial management. Sarah is currently serving her 5-year sentence and will be on probation for an additional 3 years after her release. She has no assets, no professional credentials, and a felony record that will make it extremely difficult for her to rebuild her life. The money she stole to fund her secret luxury lifestyle is now being used to compensate the families she victimized and to rebuild the business reputation she destroyed. The most satisfying part of this entire nightmare is that Sarah's attempt to steal her way to a better lifestyle backfired completely. Instead of secretly accumulating wealth while maintaining her respectable public image, she lost everything and will spend years paying restitution to the families she betrayed. The luxury items she bought with stolen money have been sold to help fund victim compensation, and she'll be working minimum wage jobs for the rest of her life to pay back the money she stole. Today, Thompson Construction is more successful than it ever was when Sarah was handling our finances. Our reputation for honesty and transparency has become our greatest competitive advantage, and clients frequently tell me they choose to work with us specifically because they trust our ethical business practices. I've learned that sometimes the worst betrayal can actually lead to the strongest foundation for future success, as long as you're willing to do whatever it takes to make things right. Today, 3 years after discovering Sarah's massive fraud operation, I can honestly say that the worst betrayal of my life led to the best version of my business and myself. Thompson Construction is now the most trusted contracting company in Dallas, not because we never had problems, but because of how we handled them when they arose. Our transparency policies have been adopted by contractors across Texas, and we've received recognition from the Better Business Bureau for ethical business practices. I remarried last year to an amazing woman named Lisa who works as a fraud investigator for a major insurance company. She understands exactly what I went through with Sarah and has helped me build the financial oversight systems that ensure nothing like this could ever happen again. Lisa and I run our household finances with complete transparency, and she's actually helped me improve our business accounting practices even further. The families that Sarah victimized have all been fully compensated, and many of them have become close friends who continue to hire us for new projects. Mrs. Henderson recently hired us to renovate her master bathroom, and she told me that watching how I handled Sarah's crimes convinced her that Thompson Construction was a company she could trust with any project. The Johnson family has referred 6 new clients to us, saying they've never seen a business owner take such complete responsibility for making things right. Sarah was released from prison 8 months ago and is currently working at a fast food restaurant while living in a studio apartment and paying restitution. She's required to pay 20% of her income to victim compensation for the next 15 years, which means she'll be living in poverty for the rest of her working life. She lost her professional credentials, her freedom, her marriage, and any chance of rebuilding a respectable life. All because she chose theft over honest work. The most important lesson I learned from this nightmare is that some betrayals go far beyond personal relationships. Sarah didn't just cheat me out of money. She turned our clients into victims and nearly destroyed the reputation I had spent 15 years building. She used our marriage as cover for systematic crimes against hardworking families who trusted us with their homes and their savings. But I also learned that how you respond to betrayal defines who you are more than the betrayal itself. I could have declared bankruptcy, blamed Sarah for everything, and walked away from the mess she created. Instead, I chose to take full responsibility for making our clients whole, even though it cost me everything I had saved. That decision to prioritize justice over self-preservation is what saved my reputation and rebuilt my business stronger than ever. If you're running a business with a partner, especially a spouse, never give anyone complete control over your finances without independent oversight. Trust but verify, document everything, and remember that criminals are often the people closest to you who understand exactly how to exploit your trust. Sarah was able to steal for 3 years because I trusted her completely and never questioned her financial decisions. Never tolerate dishonesty in business or personal relationships, because small lies always lead to bigger crimes. And remember that sometimes the worst thing that happens to you can become the foundation for the best thing that ever happens to you, as long as you're willing to do whatever it takes to make things right. Thanks for watching Revenge Diaries, where justice always wins in the end, even when it costs everything you have to achieve it.